Hello, hello, hello. I have, hold on. Ooh, will it let me?
Well, did you go live?
Oh, there it is. To turn it around. All right, yes. So I have
Attorney Gilda Sherad Ali here with the wonderful Amber Robles-Gordon.
and she's in front of my work. She's one of my wonderful, beautiful collectors. Someone I just am so have so much love and genuine what's the word? Beyond love. Like I care for. Yeah, like precious to me. And so I wanted to have a conversation with Miss Gilda Sherad Ali.
And here we are, having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. So, Miss Ali, tell us about your experience, or start where you want to start, please.
I think before we were talking about starting with the law school experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I went to law school in 1978, and I graduated in 1981. When I went to law school, I went to Rutgers in New Jersey. At that time, they had two campuses, one in Camden, New Jersey, and one in Newark, New Jersey. I went to the college in Camden, New Jersey, which was right across the river from Philadelphia, where I had lived for many years prior to, because I got a master's degree from Cheney. At that time, it was Cheney State College, but it became Cheney University, and where I had a wonderful experience. So my class that came in was almost 300 people. It was a huge class. Of that number, there were maybe 17 or 18 people of African descent. And I think there were 7 or 8 women, black women of African descent in that class. And I was one of them. The experience was so rough. First of all, nobody in my family has ever gone to law school. I didn't know anybody who's ever gone to law school. Other than a couple of lawyers that represented some relatives in criminal matters, I never even knew about a lawyer. Okay? But that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to go to law school. So I applied. I took the LSAT. I got accepted just like everybody else. And went to Rutgers and got there and found out that things were different. They were going to be different. That old adage that my father and his family said, you have to be twice as good, came to fore. You had to be twice as good just to make it, because they made it very difficult. Not the professors.
The students.
Some of the fellow students made it very, very difficult because it was highly competitive.
Yeah.
We knew going in. They told us coming in, okay, 1/3 of y'all at the bottom of the curve, they've graded on the curve. At the bottom of the curve, you're going to be lopped off after that first year.
Wow.
You're never going to cross that stage to graduate. Okay? The second and third year was solidified. But the first year, you had to prove yourself, prove your worth. You had to get those grades. And it was very difficult. It was highly competitive. They used something called the Socratic method in teaching, because you had to stand up in class and answer the questions and get grilled over and over again about the cases, but you had to know those cases in order to be grilled, all right, by those professors. And it could be embarrassing. And it happened one time to me. But going into law school, I thought, I don't know what I thought, but what I got was something entirely different.
Right.
Okay? For the first time in my life, I was confronted with the reality that some white men in the United States think that they are entitled.
Yeah.
to whatever they want. They think they're entitled to a law degree. They think they're entitled to the best jobs. They think they're entitled to the best of everything. And they act like they are entitled and that you don't matter at all. They will cheat. They will do things to disrupt your ability to get information. Example, when we had to go to the law library. They did not allow us to have online research. It was new.
Mm-hmm.
It was a new technology then. And they said, no, y'all can't use that. Go to the library, get the books, okay? Read the books, get the cases, and do the work. And that's what we did. We had to go to the law library, pull the case books out, copy them, get ready, study the cases so we can discuss them in class.
Mm-hmm.
And it went well for a while. Then it was a situation where you go to get the books and you see that the relevant case that you need, the pages are torn out.
Wow.
Out of the case book that was on the shelf. Now, at the law school I went to, they had 2 sets of case books, but one was kept behind the counter for the professors and for their law clerks and what have you. The one on the shelf is for everybody else. And these students knew that that was the case, And how did I know that it was some of those young white boys? Because they would be sitting over there snickering. Wow. And they know that you was looking for the case. And it was torn out of the book. They have copied and distributed to their friends, but you had to do something else in order to get your lesson. Okay? And I was not going to be shut out.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to take the train sometimes to leave campus in Camden and go to University of Pennsylvania or to Temple and get the books I needed and get the cases that I needed. And it cost me.
Yeah.
I had to either eat or go catch the train. And I chose, I'm going to go catch the train because I'm going to be prepared when I go to class. Out of the 8 women black women who went to school who started at freshman year with me, only 2 of us graduated.
Wow.
Me and one other.
Yeah.
Okay? Because the weeding out process was so intense that if you didn't give it your all, you didn't make it.
Right.
Most of those black men didn't make it either. Okay? Because that was the intent. If you were at the bottom third of that curve, you got cut off. Now, that is only one part of the law experience at law school. The other part is you got to pass the bar. Once you pass the bar, you can practice law. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to pass the bar. I took more than one time. I had to prepare myself, take that bar and not pass it and take it again.
Yeah.
Okay, but I eventually passed the bar, and I moved to DC. I got married, moved to DC, and I started practicing in DC only after I knew that the marriage was not going to work out. And I said, I want to have my own practice. Now here I was, about to be a single parent, no money, only a part-time job, teaching at Montgomery College. I was teaching at Montgomery College in Tacoma Park. And what was I to do to get clients and that kind of thing?
Right.
So
build a business.
Yeah. So my mother called me, and she said she had a cousin who had a daughter who had a shoplifting case, and she needed a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I'm a lawyer. I can represent her. So I put on my little blue linen suit and my little heels, and I went down there. I talked to her first. I met her,
right,
at my home because I didn't have an office. And I lived on Capitol Hill at the time. And then I went down to the courthouse to represent her. Somebody had to tell me where to go. To the arraignment court. It was in the basement. I think it still is. Mm-hmm. At 500 Indiana Avenue, the arraignment court. So I went down there, met my client. We talked in the hallway. I saw a lot of activity, lawyers and clients and people doing things. I said, this is pretty nice down here, you know. And I went into the courtroom and sat there. I saw lawyers were sitting up front and their clients were sitting in the back. So I sat up there with the other lawyers. I'm a lawyer too.
Yes.
I sit up here with the rest of them, you know. Lo and behold, I didn't know anything about court appointed.
Oh.
So the judge had a case that came out. They were prostitutes.
Oh, wow.
It was about 6 of them. But it wasn't enough court-appointed lawyers that were on their court-appointed panel to represent all of those people individually, because everybody had to have their own lawyer.
Right.
So he said, what about you in the blue suit? Aren't you a lawyer? I said, yes, Your Honor, but I'm not, you know, one of the lawyers that represent people. I have a client in the back. He said, okay, well, you can help the court out. I said, okay.
Wow, talk about jumping in, huh?
So I got up to go to help the court out, and there was a woman there, a black woman, and she said, just say what I say and do what I do.
Wow.
I stood next to her. Her name was Gloria Henderson.
Wow.
And if she sees this, she's going to know. She said, just say what I say and do what I do. I said, okay. So I stood next to her. We each had a client, and I said what she said, and I embellished a little bit, because you know, a little bit of actress in me. So I embellished a little bit for it, and my client got released along with the rest of them.
Wow.
And at that time, I felt so good. And you know, something, we always say something, something came to me and said, this is what you're going to do.
Wow.
I said, wow, really? So afterwards, I met her, Miss Henderson, in the hallway, and I asked her, I said, hey, how do you get on this panel? She said, come on, I'll show you. And she took me to the CJA office, that's the Criminal Justice Act office, in the basement of D.C. Superior Court, and they showed me all the things I had to submit and everything I had to do to become a member of that panel. And I became a member of that panel the next month. I was approved, and I did that for 33 and a half years.
Wow.
Along with other things and building my
right.
practice. But I didn't have to look for clients.
Yeah.
I had clients right off the bat.
Oh, wow. And Miss Gloria helped
I had clients right away.
Yeah,
so I didn't have to look for clients.
Yeah.
So I had a practice. It was like, you know, God was watching out for me. You know, I had to take the CLE courses to know more about the criminal law and representation and all of those things. But I had some really good people who were my mentors, you know. Some, not only Gloria, but a few older black guys that I met who were down there. My first criminal trial, I prepared so hard. I worked so hard. I had an investigator. We went out to the scene. We looking for witnesses. But I didn't have a real strategy. And it was
at that point,
it was a jury trial. This is my first jury trial for a criminal case. And I didn't have a real strategy. So back then, I think it was 1990, 91, they used to stack the cases, you know, because there's so many cases. Those are the go-go 90s. There were so many cases, and you had your trial. The next attorney up waited in the courtroom until your trial was over, and even though your jury was out deliberating, the next attorney up started picking their jury.
Wow.
So they were moving them that fast.
Yeah.
Okay? So, lo and behold, this first trial of mine, it was in front of a judge. It was a black judge. And the attorney who was behind me waiting for his trial was Ken Mundy.
Who's that?
Ken Mundy was a well-known criminal defense attorney in D.C. who represented Marion Barry.
Oh.
So it was Ken.
Wow.
It was Kenneth Mundy. I did not know Kenneth Mundy from A Can of Paint.
At that point, right?
At that point. At that point. Okay? But he was watching me. And during that first break, he said, I was out in the hallway, I met with my investigator, and he said, "You want to have a cup of coffee?" I said, "Sure." We went down to the cafeteria to have a cup of coffee, and he told me, "You're all over the place." He said, "You're a good lawyer. I can tell, because you worked hard, and you're working even harder right now." He said, "You're all over the place. But what you have to do is to take the jury where you want it to go. That means you have to have a solid defense and an idea of what you want this jury to know, so you can take this jury where you want it to go." And after I lost my case, I sat in the courtroom and watched him, and it was a lesson I never forgot.
Yeah.
It was the thing that made me different from the rest, I think. And I became a pretty good lawyer after that. I watched a master at work. And I never forgot, you got to not only take the jury, you got to take the judge. You got to take everybody who's the fact finder where you want them to go. That's very, very important in anything, especially in criminal practice, but it's also in civil practice or any other practice, you know. I learned that some people are good and some people are not. That was from that law school experience where all those little, I used to call, when Donald Trump became president, I recognized him immediately. Because I went to law school with a lot of little Donald Trumps.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay? They expected that they could have whatever they wanted, however they wanted to get it. It doesn't matter. They didn't see it as anything but my entitlement. Because I'm white in America. And that was not for all white people. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But for a certain segment, it was true then and it's true now.
So how long was law school?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
I was in law school for 3 years. And it was 3 defining years for me. I grew up.
You told me a story when we chatted yesterday, and you mentioned specifically being in the class and preparing the night before.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the whole thing about you have to be prepared. You have to read those cases. You can't, go to a law library and the case is missing. You find out what the relevant case is, and everybody had to be on the same page in terms of those cases, all right? So I went one time and found my cases, and I was prepared. I stayed up late. I had all my stuff copied, and everything was underlined, and, I was ready. And I got to class, and I was called on. That was the first time I was called on. And I stood up. There was some nervousness, but primarily I couldn't remember anything because I was so tired and so hungry. I could not remember what I had done. And of course, you sit down, Miss Sherrod, they embarrass you.
Yeah.
Sit down, just doing blah, 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 blah. And they belittle you and embarrass you and you sit down. And I sat down feeling kind of bad for myself. And this other little white guy sitting over here, he says, "You don't have to worry about him calling on you again." I said, okay. But I didn't listen to that.
Yeah.
No. No, I didn't listen to that. I went home, did the same thing all over again for the next day, for the new lesson, and I was ready when I got in there, and he called on me.
And that guy the way you described it, just so the fact that the teacher the next day called you again.
He called on me.
Yeah.
2 days in a row.
And what happened?
I was ready. He grilled me like it was, like I was trying to win a prize. But I answered every question, and when it's finished, he said, "Bravo."
All right.
Miss Sherrod, you may be seated. That's what the professor said to me. Bravo. He was trying to catch me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, oh, baby. I was ready for him, okay? Because it mattered to me. You know, I was a school teacher before I went to law school.
Oh.
I gave up teaching. I sold my Beetle, my Volkswagen Beetle, okay? I left the man I was living with. I went to law school. There was no turning back. There was no giving up. I was going forward.
Right.
This is what I was going to do. And I was determined. And I did it. Why? Because I felt it. I felt that it was something that I could do and my contribution to my people. And that's how it turned out. You know, the racism was there. It is still there. It has not changed. But we have to change our perspective and how we deal with it. Because it is not our job to convert so-called white people or people who consider themselves white or who think that they are superior because they are white. It is not our job to convert them. Okay? I think Toni Morrison said it best. If you can only be tall when someone else is on their knees, then there's something wrong with you. And you've got to do something about it. Okay? That's what we have to do. We have to do something about us, not them. They got to do something about them. We got to do something about us. And what do? We teach our own children. We teach them their history. We teach them their contributions to society. We represent our people to the best of our ability. We don't just represent our people just because we get a check. We represent our people because we want our people to get the best representation, whether we get a check or not. And I did some of that. I represented some political prisoners, some people who gave up everything. You know, Black Panther Party. They used to be Black Panther Party members, Black Liberation Army members. They believed in armed struggle as a way for us to get equality and freedom. Okay? There was unarmed struggle, and there was some who believed in armed struggle. People want to say different things about them, but these were human beings. I met some of them. These were wonderful people. And they realized after they were doing 30 years in prison, 35 years in prison, that's when I met them, trying to get collateral attack against their conviction so they can get out. They realized I gave up everything. And history has forgotten me. My people have forgotten me. I'm sitting here forgotten. And I like, no, everybody hasn't forgot you. I'm here. Everybody didn't forget about y'all. I'm here. And there are others who didn't forget, you know. There was one client. His name was Mutulu Shakur. And Mutulu Shakur used to say that if you are an African, he used the word African, in this country, in this time, you have to struggle. You have to live a life of resistance. You have to resist white supremacy. And there's glory and there's beauty in resistance. And those of us who use our art, our music, our careers, our livelihood, whatever we do to resist, the resistors are sane. The ones who don't resist are crazy. Because they're just chasing material stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That clouds their vision.
Yeah.
Tell me, you were saying that there were some people that you seen that the term for it now would be allyship. That you had seen in terms of your time in the district courts. Can you talk about that a little?
Well, you're talking about white allyship.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. there's some really good people who take their work seriously.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter
who it's for,
the color of the skin of the client, or the ability to pay or not pay. Okay? I saw this most starkly and clearly in some of the women, white women that I knew as attorneys, who were part of the panel representing neglected and abused children in D.C. Superior Court. They would go all out of their way if they represented the mother to make sure that she got what she needed, and they'd give her the best representation that they could. If they represented the children, they would make sure that they would go out of their way to make sure the children had the best placement. The children have stuff for their birthday. Children have stuff for Christmas. I mean, these women didn't have to do this. And
right.
One woman in particular, I'm not going to say her name, who had a family and she was married. She only represented the children. She as the guardian ad litem. She refused to represent parents. But she was an excellent guardian ad litem. And she treated her clients, these were her clients, as if they were her own children. She was fantastic. I don't know when, I left before she did in terms of retiring. So
yeah.
I don't know if she's still practicing or not, but she was doing it for a very long time. For a very long time she did that work. And she only got paid what everybody else got paid. It was a standard fee. You know, they gave us a certain amount of money per hour, and we all got the same standard fee. We had to fill out the little vouchers and put them in, and it wasn't, you're not going to get rich.
Right.
But you could make a living.
Yeah.
You know, and it got down to, is this your calling or not? You know, it was almost like a calling. You had to feel it. You had to want to do it. You know, because if you didn't want to do it, you didn't do it.
Right.
And you didn't do a good, or if you did it, you
didn't do a good job. Yeah, and that shows up in your
shows up in your work, and it shows up in how you represented the client.
Yeah.
You know, because if you really wanted to do a good job, you could do a good job for your clients. And these people, a lot of the people that I represented everybody had to be impoverished to a certain extent because they had to be approved for a court-appointed lawyer.
Got it.
But they were not impoverished in spirit.
And that's important.
And that's important. So you have to treat them like human beings.
Right.
To get the best result. You know?
So, Miss Ali, can you tell us how you got involved in your appreciation of art?
When I was in undergrad in Buffalo, New York, I took an art class.
Okay, I need you to speak up just a little because the air just went up. The air came on.
When I was an undergrad in State University of New York in Buffalo, I took an art class. And in that art class, I saw and learned a lot of things. And I became interested in art. Most of the art was European art. You know,
because that's really what they focused on in those courses.
That's what they focused on. You know, that was true. But there was a few things that got through, like Romar Bearden and Jacob Lawrence. So there was a few things that got through. And you say, this is interesting. You know, I like what they're doing. And we even did a few of our own collages in the class, and they gave us a piece of wood to try to sculpt and everything. So I got interested in art then. I think I was a junior. That was one of my electives. Okay. When I got to Philadelphia, I was in my early 20s, I would actually go to parties that were thrown by some artists. I believe one of them was Charles Searles. I'm trying to think if it was him or another brother. But we would go to parties, and art was everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is just fantastic. This is a different way of being, a different way of expressing. This was in the 70s, so the art was getting more and more black in terms of expressing liberation and themes of black themes. This was in the 70s, okay? So it was, that's how I got interested in art. I didn't start collecting until I moved. Let me see. I started collecting in 1985 when my daughter was born. I started collecting. You can show that piece over there in the corner.
Okay.
That was my first piece I bought when my daughter was, I was pregnant. That was in 1985. My second piece was right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started collecting.
I'll take pictures of it and we'll post it.
I could not afford, certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But all I wanted was original paint on canvas or board signed by an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't afford the big guys,
Mm-hmm.
or the big women, but I can afford some people to give me original paint
Mm-hmm.
on canvas or board signed by the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I concentrated on. If I liked it, if it hit my eye as something that I could identify to, I would buy it. And I bought that piece right there behind you. I paid, don't say that, okay. But that's what I did. I concentrated on buying art that I like. Now this one is your piece.
Yes.
And I liked it immediately.
Thank you, Miss Ali.
It spoke to me. I had a time. I couldn't figure out how to get it framed. Because that's the difficult part.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got it framed, and he said, I'm a box frame it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, wow. That sounds,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's do that.
That was my framer, right? I sent you to
You
my
sent me to that framer. Yeah. I still go to him.
Yeah. Oh,
and
nice. He did a good job.
He did a fantastic job. He box framed it for me. And everybody that sees that piece, they love it.
Mm.
They love it. And people say, oh, it's so abstract. Well, no, you got to look at it. You got to look at it to see the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at it to see the trees and things. If you look at it, you can see a lot in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's still abstract.
And it's still abstract.
And there's still so much to see.
Yes. There's so much to see and to enjoy.
Yeah.
That's what the art does. It speaks to you and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But most of my stuff is abstract.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like abstraction because I can see into it. Like that one piece I told you, I had it for 36 years
Mm-hmm.
and didn't know it was a gun in it.
Yeah, you did tell me that. I will absolutely take a picture. So
I didn't know it was a gun in that picture.
So I don't know how long but we've been on for a while. So I wanna say, what is something that you want people that see this video to hear, if they listen to the whole thing, what would you want them to walk away with?
It's important to follow your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to follow your heart. To dream big.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can achieve that. To always think about how you can help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Not just yourself, not just materially. And if you're African American or of African descent and you're in this country at this time,
Mm-hmm.
you have to live a life of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're joyous, in our joy, our joy is a signal of our resistance. Well, I'm not talking about being sad and mad. No, not that.
Right.
Our joy
is a way of reflecting resistance. It's one of the ways you can do so.
It's one of the ways
Yeah.
It's always an expression of our resistance.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do to me, I'm going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to love my life. and I'm going to be joyous. That's
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you everybody that signed on for this. Appreciate you much. Thank you, Miss Ali.
You know, people that saw this?
Yes. You are funny. You are cute and funny. All right. Bye, we the people. DC.